Customer Success Manager here at ModernLoop. I have the absolute pleasure to get to work with not only just the panelists who you have listed here, but also the greater talent acquisition team over at Roblox. It has been incredibly rewarding from my perspective, and they've taught me a significant amount about the talent world and their processes. If we could, we'll just kind of go around the horn for how it's shown here, starting off with JP. If you could, please introduce yourself, give a little bit of background knowledge.
Sure, thanks, JD. And hey, everyone, see a lot of familiar faces in the participants list. So thanks, y'all, for joining in. For folks I haven't met, I'm JP, and I'm on the talent team here at Roblox. Specifically, I lead a team focused on recruiting talent from less represented communities. I spent a lot of my time prior to that at Roblox leading the recruiting coordination team, and you'll hear from some of those folks today. And prior to that, I spent 4.5 years at Pinterest, where I also led coordination and supported recruiting for a number of different roles. Excited to be here.
Thanks, JP. Shayna.
Hi, folks. My name is Shayna Steinfeld, and I currently lead our TA enablement and candidate experience programs at Roblox. Prior to doing that, I actually was working on our diversity sourcing strategy, both at Roblox and then previously as well at Pinterest. Really excited to be here today and talk more about candidate experience and some of the things we're doing here at Roblox and also working on with ModernLoop.
Awesome. We're stoked to have you here, Shayna. Andrea, if you could, please.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Andrea Preciado. I've been at Roblox for just under 4 years, and I am one of our recruiting coordinator leads at Roblox. I support the coordination team for making sure that our candidate experience is wonderful, both in-house and with external candidates.
Awesome. Yeah, stoked to have you here as well. And then Gwen, the very last one up.
Yeah, hi, I'm Gwen McKieran. I lead the RC team here at Roblox. I joined about a year ago, taking the reins from JP, actually. Prior to this, I was at Meta doing a similar function there for about 6 years. So very excited to be here with you all today.
Awesome. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys taking the time, not only to facilitate this, we had a good amount of time leading up to it in the partnership. So just really want to say thank you. Really stoked for today. Alrighty, let's get right into the content here. So as we're kind of looking at the overall process, right? All candidates obviously start to work with talent acquisitions team. Of that, you have to determine how to build your candidate process in your teams. So JP, kind of for you, could you explain a little bit about the team composition over at Roblox and how you think having the correct composition aids to the best candidate experience?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I mean, on this slide, we have some of the more general roles that we employ here on the team. I don't think that there's anything mind-blowing about having TA leaders, recruiters, sourcers, and coordinators on the team. But I especially highlighted these roles because I feel like these are the roles that most directly impact the candidate experience, the folks that touch the candidate's experience each and every day, whether that be over the phone, over email, in person. We do, and we have invested some of our headcount in roles within recruiting that touch the operation space, the program space. So for example, you'll hear from folks like Shayna later on the call. My team, as I mentioned earlier, is exclusively focused on bringing diversity to the top of the funnel for Roblox. But at the end of the day, we believe here that the candidate experience is part of everyone's job, and we'll talk more about how that extends even beyond the recruiting team today. But when I think about the composition of our team in general, I think setting that mindset really from the top down is such a key. And for each of the folks on the call today, I'm sure that they would agree.
Love that. Yeah, I mean, I know in the candidate experience, right, there's so many different teams, whether you're specifically involved in talent acquisition, whether you're an interviewer, or any walks of life within the company. So it's really great to hear that perspective that it's a full company initiative. Awesome.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think, and kind of leading up to that idea, one of my early leaders had kind of told me like recruiting is very much a team sport, and I love that idea of being on a broader team and contributing to a bigger vision. And that extends to concepts like the candidate experience as well. And I think with the way that things are going today, just kind of putting things in to a more human perspective for folks, we have the opportunity to work with someone in a really vulnerable time, or maybe a really tumultuous time in their life or career, making some very big decisions about how they choose to spend the majority of the day, how they choose to provide for their family. And if you've been on the other side of that stick, that's not always the funnest part of the equation to be on. So if you can make that even 1% better from someone by making their experience better, I think that you've not only helped that person, but maybe even helped your chances of securing that talent for your organization.
I love that. Yeah, it's obviously, I know with your experience, you've worked at a pretty few large litigious places and have helped kind of, grow and, usher teams to provide a great candidate experience. So it's incredible to hear. Looking at things like a culture reflection, as you kind of built out teams, how have you really leaned in to focus on the culture that bringing in a candidate, not only do you kind of express the best culture for your company, but make sure they're a good culture fit in there, to give them a great experience?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think when you start at the beginning and when you're a job seeker, you're going to do your homework, you're going to do your research, and you're going to try to get a sense of what that company culture is like. And we've read the bad LinkedIn posts, we've read the bad Glassdoor posts, and I think just starting with a reminder for everybody in the process that your opportunity to impact the candidate experience equates to your opportunity to create and advocate for your brand and your organization, and those perceptions persist for much longer than they're interviewing at your company. Here at Roblox, we are building a pretty complex 3D immersive communications platform where the skill sets that we're hiring for, not only are they highly sought after, but those communities are also very, very tight knit. If you think about computer vision, machine learning, and safety and civility, these folks have often gone to school together, stay in touch after. So, one bad apple ruins the bunch, I think, is a good adage that applies here. You want to attract quality talent. This quality talent is connecting with each other, and it's super, super important, again, to give them an idea that your organization is a place they want to be. And this one really hasn't changed. And I feel like it's often forgotten, but to your point, JD, kind of the cultural reflection, the experience you have as a candidate going through an interview process is very much a reflection of what you might perceive as an employee at that organization. And for folks on the call who are part of recruiting coordination teams, if you've been a coordinator, my favorite thing for you is you get that email back from the candidate, and the candidate says, the experience that you gave me is a big part of why I've chosen to join. For the folks on the call who are coordinators, I feel like that's the coup de grace, right? That's what you really, really shoot for. And again, it's because that experience is a reflection of your culture.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think now you kind of hit on the way that the LinkedIn posts, the Glassdoor posts are easily accessible. Making sure every candidate has a solid experience, a full understanding of like all the time and effort that teams put into it. Whether they end up with an offer or not, it's going to extend out to future candidates, and especially the ease of use to find things. I can open my phone and in seconds I can have reviews on every company I'm looking for. So really awesome to kind of have that be something in your guys' mind's eye, and for the folks on the call, just like really making sure that every candidate, whether a good or bad outcome, they still get the best experience, and that's really telltale. So awesome, love it. Cool. We'll keep on cruising here. It looks like the next one here, Gwen, I'm going to hit you with a couple of things. So obviously over the past year, maybe past couple of years, right? Hiring in the tech industry has been incredibly volatile. So I guess I'm curious from your perspective, what you've seen with that volatility, how important still is the candidate experience? Why does it matter? And what are some of the things top of mind?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Absolutely, the candidate experience still matters. I think it matters even more right now, to your point of the volatility that we're seeing in the market over the past few years. Companies are in a position now where they are able to be much more selective of who they want to hire because there's just more talent in the market. And so right now, companies are likely interviewing several really qualified candidates and having to make those tough decisions. And so from a candidate experience perspective, it's important that the folks that don't end up with offers are still walking away with a positive memory. I think that that's, something that we want to hit home with not just recruiters and coordinators and sourcers and things like that, but also our interviewers, making sure that they're well prepared to give that candidate a positive experience. Because also, for those of us that have been through these cycles over the past 10 years or so, when that faucet of hiring turns back on, we hopefully are able to re-engage with many of those candidates that we had to pass on in the past. And so how much better will it be to re-engage with someone that had a great experience with us? I think, speaking on my own personal experience, I'll just share, I was impacted by layoffs in the past, and getting to get in the process with Roblox was really exciting for me. It definitely was an interesting experience to be in the job market against my will, I guess you could say. It wasn't my choosing to be in the job market, and I know a lot of candidates are in that boat right now. But I think what really stuck out to me through my recruiting process here as a candidate was just how engaged the whole team made me feel. I had a recruiter, but JP was actually the hiring manager, and he kind of shepherded me through the process just as much as my recruiter did. And so when I did end up with that offer, it was so much more easy to say yes, because I knew the team that I was joining. I was feeling so welcomed and taken care of through the whole process. And I think that that's something that not all companies do as well. I think that there's definitely, especially right now, just with the volume of candidates coming through different funnels, it's probably very easy to just kind of herd the cats through the funnel, so to speak. And I think it's really important that we don't lose sight of that candidate experience.
Yeah, no, that's really appreciate you sharing a little personally. That's obviously not great that you entered to the job market under your own will, but obviously you found a really great team, and I'm appreciative to work with you. Really cool to hear JP as a hiring manager kind of was with you in lockstep. I think that goes back to some of his comments, right? Of like, it is a full company's initiative to provide a great candidate experience, whether it's a single touch point, whether you're going to be with them all the way through as a recruiter. So really, really cool to hear kind of like the proof in the pudding there, if you will.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
amazing. Awesome. Cruising on down, let's see here. We've got a little bit of focus here on like best practices. So if you could, Andrea and Shayna, I'd be curious to know from you guys, working at Roblox, maybe also thinking about maybe some previous roles, like what are some processes and best practices you guys have seen to really up level the candidate experience and make sure they're getting your guys' best foot forward?
Awesome. I can start, and then Shane, if you'd like to follow up on afterwards. My viewpoint as a recruiting coordinator lead is focused very much on the coordination process itself of scheduling, communications. So the secret to our success would be our proactive efforts. We are striving to always anticipate the needs of both the candidates and the hiring team to ensure that we have as smooth of a process as possible. We would rather have extra instead of not enough. And a big part of that also means that we have internal initiatives. For example, we shouldn't only do the baseline just because we're required by law. We should step up and use our core values as a guidance, which is respect the community, take the long view, get stuff done, we're responsible. So we have 2 internal initiatives I'm really excited to share about. We have recently created an interview accommodations program where we're making sure that people have as equitable of an opportunity to interview, and we want to make sure that they put their best foot forward. As Gwen and JP have been saying, sometimes there's added stress on top of the process itself. So we don't want that to be a negative against a candidate where we miss an amazing person who can really make a great impact at Roblox. And we also have an interviewer appreciation program. I really love the fact that we do this for both looking at the metrics, which we can see through ModernLoop or through our ATS, but also we have a space where people can really highlight individuals who are a walking example of our culture and core values, where someone can say, I'm so glad that person X jumped in. They were covering for my interview today because I ended up being sick. Can you please let them know I really appreciate it, and tell their manager? And we also will do rewards on different times of year as well to celebrate and to have exclusive swag. So it becomes this internal little secret club, which is really cool.
That's incredible. Yeah. Anytime you can create a community, I think, in addition to a process, that's the icing on the cake, right? Because not only do you have colleagues, but they eventually become friends and people in your network. So that's incredible. Love to hear that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And,
Shayna, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. One thing I would also like to highlight real quickly is one thing we do for a mindset at Roblox is after we have all those proactive elements and that internal community built, we're still going to have things not be perfect. So when we do have pain points along the way, we try to use that as an opportunity to highlight and celebrate elements at Roblox. For example, if we have a bunch of holidays coming up at the end of the year, instead of being upset that we have fewer days in a month to interview, we're going to turn around and let a candidate know in advance, we're so excited to connect with you. I just want to let you know in advance, we are going to be off for 3 days in November because we have Thanksgiving, because we are having company-wide coordinated time off, and that is a chance for have recharge days. So it's a way to have it be something for a candidate to be excited about potentially participating in if they make it through the process and accept our offer, but also they can see we're not just respecting our external community, but our internal community as well.
Oh, incredible. Yeah, and I love that you guys celebrate that. I mean, I think candidates who are hungry for the job are always wanting to get to that end result quicker. But also showing them, you know, if you do join, like we're going to be as cognizant about our internal folks as we are external. That's incredible. I love that you guys celebrate that. That's great.
Yeah, and Andrea provided a great overview of some of the work that we do to really proactively provide a great candidate experience for all of our candidates. And I just had a couple of points I wanted to add here that really do focus on perhaps some of the populations that we sometimes don't necessarily think about when we think about, you know, the interview process as a whole, which maybe can skew a little bit more towards industry candidates, you know, those who are kind of in the midpoint of their career. And there's actually two things that I wanted to highlight, one that our early careers team did and one that is on the exec side. So first, just recently our Roblox Career Center launched, which is actually an experience on Roblox about Roblox. And this is for our early career candidates to learn more about what Roblox is as a product, and as a platform outside of just what it's like to work here. So really using Roblox to help kind of embody what it might be like to work here. And I think at this point, we've had hundreds of thousands of visitors to this site. You can go on now. I think if you just look up Roblox Career Center, you'll be able to get navigated over. And we've had some interviews in the platform. We've had events and conversations, and it's just a really great opportunity for us to really showcase the full, you know, scope of what Roblox can provide here to somebody. On the other side, our executive recruiting team just recently launched a nurture program. So thinking about how we can build relationships with candidates long-term, not just for the here and now. So really taking more of a zoomed out perspective on candidate experience and not just thinking about the interview process that is currently happening, but also providing a great experience to anybody who might be interested in Roblox, learning more, but maybe we just don't have the right role or match for them right now, looking to continue to build those relationships over time. And then last, of course, and this is, you know, part of maybe alluding to why we're here on this call, but we actually just recently adopted ModernLoop's candidate portal and are testing that out with about, I think, around 20 or so roles now for our team, which we'll talk a little bit more about. But really, the goal there is to provide our candidates with as much information and set them up for success in our interview process. So not just, you know, providing them interview prep information. Hey, maybe you haven't been interviewing in a while. Here are some best practices that we recommend you take a look at, but also what the role is or what it ladders up to, how you can learn a little bit more about some of your, you know, potential future coworkers or some of what's hot and new here at Roblox. So we really like using that as an opportunity to kind of peek into Roblox a little bit more.
Amazing. That's great. I love the kind of the both perspectives there of not only just hoping for the best outcome and the best people, but also those you know, making sure that they're continuing to level up and continue to have resources there. It's very pivotal, I think, in everyone's early or late careers of just having a good colleague and, you know, having a good network. Cool. So you mentioned a couple times, right? And we all have how much time and effort goes into building these processes, making sure that we have the right people in place, the processes, the follow-ups. So looking at how we can quantify success of that, what are some Roblox metrics, feedback processes that you guys are leaning into to kind of make sure that that is progressing and that candidates are getting a good outcome?
Yeah, absolutely. And before really jumping into what it is that we look at specifically, I think for Roblox, it was really important to take a look at who are all of the people that can impact the candidate experience in an overall perspective. So it's not just what our recruiters and sourcers are responsible for. It's also what our coordination team is responsible for. It's also what our hiring managers and interviewers are responsible for. And so we do like to look at candidate experience from all of those different perspectives. Like a lot of companies, we do track our candidate experience NPS or Net Promoter Score, as well as just an overall measure of how our candidates feel about the interview process. And we look at this on a weekly basis to determine if we're moving in the right direction and whether or not we're continuing to uphold a great candidate experience overall. And again, a lot of that, our survey or the way that we track our NPS does look at what our recruiters and sourcers are doing in the process. So we're looking at things like, are our recruiters and sourcers providing candidates with the right information at the right time? Are they answering questions and, helping candidates work through any concerns or challenges that they might have in the interview process? Are we scheduling their interviews in a timely manner? Are we treating candidates with respect? Which is, of course, one of our values too. We want to respect the community. Our candidates are very much a part of that community. But we also look, like I mentioned, at our hiring managers and our interviews as well. So we ask things like, did your interviewers show up on time? Were they well prepared with questions? And again, we also ask them if candidates felt respected by their interviews. And it's something that, again, I'm going to mention probably a couple of times here, because I think demonstrating respect is one of the things that we can do that's most important in able to be able to really show that we're treating people as humans. I think a lot of times the interview process, it feels like we're looking at dashboards or numbers or our pipelines, and it is sometimes easy to forget that there are real humans that are going through this experience. We do ask, 11 questions in total. And then we also we look at that, as I mentioned, that feedback on a weekly basis, but also a monthly basis. And it's something that we do flag to our hiring teams and interviewers as well. So I think the common question, it's one that I had as a candidate back in the day of, you get these surveys, but is the company really doing something about it? And it's nice to be able to say that, yes, we are actioning on that feedback on a regular basis. Anything written that people share that provides a little bit more detail about their experience outside of just how they're answering those survey questions, we do raise that up to our TA managers on an anonymous basis, of course. So, rest assured that this isn't going to get tied back to any one individual, so that they can work with their team to understand, hey, if there was a problem here or a challenge, where might this have happened and how can we address it so that we can continue to uphold our commitment to deliver a great candidate experience. So yes, we do survey our candidates. We do look at that detailed information, and we do share it with all of the people who are involved in our hiring process so that we can continue to get better.
I love that. Yeah, no, really good call outs all around. I mean, obviously treating candidates with respect ties into things that have been mentioned, right? Like information is easy to find out there. So if a candidate has a poor experience, best believe they're going to let everyone know, right? If they have a great experience, they'll also do the same thing. So ensuring that all those are kind of being pushed with the same intensity all across the board from candidate to candidate, absolutely incredible. And I love the fact that you guys also look at your feedback that you get from candidates often, right? Nothing is worse than doing that feedback survey, doing the follow-up, and then feeling like it went into the void, right? And so it's awesome to hear you guys are continually looking at that and then iterating on your process to find those little nuggets and opportunities to up-level your process.
Yeah, and I had a conversation with one of our TA managers yesterday whose hiring partners were really looking to get more insight into the survey. And it's great to see that not only are people on TA really invested in improving our candidate experience and just continuing to uphold that high bar, but also our interviewers and hiring managers are matching that energy and also want to do the same and do right by the candidates.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Again, it takes a village, right? Going back to the comments by JP right at the top of the time, right? It's a full company initiative, whether you're on the interviews or just a smiling face as someone goes through the office, right?
Yeah.
Incredible. All righty, next one over. So I'm kind of curious, right? Obviously, we came out of COVID. A lot of folks moved over to some more virtual interviews. I think people are starting to come back in maybe a little bit. Andrea, I'd love to hear about your guys' interview process. Are we looking at virtual, in person? What considerations are being made? Kind of the whole kit and caboodle there.
Absolutely. And I have a very interesting story for how I started Roblox as well. I was one of the individuals that we hired in early 2020, and my first day was March 16th when we all were told to go home. So I personally interviewed in person. I thought it was a wonderful experience. We were much smaller then as well. So a lot has changed, and I'm very excited to confirm that yes, we currently have a hybrid approach to our interview process where we are doing both virtual and in-person interviews. We're focusing our effort on hosting our in-person interviews in a scalable manner at the on-site stage. And when we do have a focus on in-person interviews at that stage, we want to ensure that we are creating a high-quality candidate experience. We have to make sure that we have internal qualifications to even move forward on doing an in-person interview before we invite a candidate coming into Roblox HQ, because the last thing we want is for a candidate to show up and make the trip all the way out to the campus, and then they just sit in a room taking video calls all day. That's such a missed opportunity. When we do have everything align and we are able to host a candidate in person, the coordination team will lean into all of those proactive measures that I mentioned earlier. We love the templating features at ModernLoop, and there's a lot of other small details that improve the speed and quality of our communication consistencies. And once all of that is set and done, then we make sure that when we're hosting someone, we are striving to create a seamless experience to the best of our ability. This includes, we would be supporting any needed travel accommodations. For example, we have someone flying in from another area, or if they need to figure out how to best get to campus. We also want to make sure that we're preparing everything in our space for any resources they may need, such as a laptop. If they're going to be there over lunch, we make sure that we take care of their lunch tab for them. And we also will present a gift of Roblox swag to individuals who are interviewing in person on campus as an appreciation of their time. This doesn't always happen, unfortunately, because life happens, things get in the way. So if we are unable to meet our internal qualifications for any specific reason, or if a candidate is not able to visit in person at that specific moment for an in-person panel, then we will choose to pivot into a virtual on-site interview round. That way, we're not losing the momentum that we've already built up during our hiring process. We shouldn't be slowed down or miss out on a great candidate just because we don't have enough physical rooms or someone is on vacation or something like that. So we really want to lean into that flexibility. And then when we have a virtual on-site, we will still provide digital alternative resources to reflect our in-person experience, such as sending a DoorDash gift card, so they still will have lunch on us, even if they're not on campus. And we also have the resource of being able to send a Robux code as a virtual swag item to candidates.
Incredible. Amazing across the board. I love that you guys are thinking about the candidate coming on and being able to put your best foot forward. I unfortunately had a previous company where I went on site and I had to do the stare at a TV and have my interview, and it didn't necessarily divert from the overall process, but it definitely made me feel like I could have done this at home, right? So love that you guys have those certain qualifiers built in so that as you're at that kind of tipping point, you can make sure, again, you keep the momentum that you've built so far. I love that.
Thank you.
All righty. Cruising on, just again, let's see. Shayna, you had mentioned a little bit, obviously, the ModernLoop candidate portal. Would love to hear how leveraging a tool like this, whether it's our tool or a tool very similar at a previous role of yours, how does leveraging something like this really help to provide a better candidate experience?
Yeah, absolutely. And we are still fairly new to the candidate portal, but what I can say is our team internally, so our recruiters, sourcers, our coordinators really love how first, just from an operational perspective, this automatically gets sent to candidates. So they're getting, as we kind of talked about before, all of that company information, all of the interview prep information. We have this pretty robust interview prep guide, and that's role specific for technical roles. So, engineering managers are getting one, machine learning engineers are getting a different guide, for example, based on the interview process. And it's all in this really well-designed format. So we're sending them only the most relevant information for them, depending on the stage and role that they're in. As I mentioned, we've demoed it over the past couple of months with a small number of roles. And just recently I added 13 more roles to our pilot this week. So super excited to get some more candidates, this amazing platform. And there's really, I would say, two reasons that I would say something like the candidate portal really helps our candidates get set up for success. First, all the information is just in one link. So I know for me as a candidate back in the day, and also just knowing our Roblox interview process, they're getting a lot of different communication from us. So each scheduling confirmation email, emails from a sourcer, and then handing off to emails from a recruiter. And there could be multiple threads going on. So having just one, main place where all that information can live can really help kind of minimize those feelings of information overload. And it's, one of the ways that we can eliminate stress in the process. Next, it's also, and as I kind of mentioned, it's the best way to get candidates the right information at the right time. So instead of one of our TA members sending a candidate a huge email with all of the different links, all the videos that we want them to watch, links to experiences or information about the team. Instead of that all being in one place, we can kind of make it more bite-sized without having to go back and look every time, okay, what did I send the candidate previously? How can I, what's the best way to go off of this? And make it better for the candidate. Of course, as we're sending candidates this information, if our team wants to add in any additional information via email, they can. But this is a really good just kind of baseline for our candidates to get that information, again, the right information at the right time. And actually one more thing that is somewhat related to both of those points. One thing that I think is important to a lot of us on the call is ensuring equity in the process as much as possible. So by which I mean, instead of, our team having to remember to execute on sending them the information, things can slip through the cracks. There might be a really busy day. Maybe we don't get them interview prep information until 24 hours before their interview. With the candidate portal, it automatically gets sent out to them when they schedule their interview. So they're getting that information without somebody having to go and double check. Again, we're all human. These things can kind of slip through the cracks there. So it's great to be able to have that kind of, check box already filled out of, we know that we've prepped this candidate because we've sent them the candidate portal.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I think, again, like sensory overload, right? Like I'm going to get that one mass email and then I'm going to have to come back and reference, okay, where am I at in the process? Okay, this section is now relevant. Whereas with a tool like our candidate portal, right, you can kind of gate that information behind those certain stages. Incredible. So what we're going to do real quick, we're actually just going to pivot for a second. What I'd like to do is just kind of have a nice quick overview of the ModernLoop candidate portal. And then at that point, we're going to pop over and do some quick Q&A. So I do see we already have a couple of the questions in the feed there. We will pivot over to those in just a second. I'm just going to hit a little candidate portal overview. So the ModernLoop candidate portal, it's going to have a couple different things. Number one, if you come in, you have the opportunity to set some setup. So if your candidate makes it through to a determination, whether hired or rejected, we give you the opportunity to kind of gate or turn off that information for the candidate portal based off of that. So you can immediately give them opportunities, hey, 15 days after you were rejected, immediately 30, etc. Looking at branding, it's incredibly easy to build brandings within our platform. Really just takes a couple images. Both will give you guys the supported file types, sizes, all that good stuff. We'll try to usher it to be the best opportunity, the easiest way to get it in there. Once you have that, another good call out is the candidate portal for the candidates is also optimized for mobile. So if you guys are thinking about where you check most of your information nowadays, I don't know about you, but I do it all on my phone. So having a mobile experience there, again, to what Shana was just mentioning, that centralized place for all information going into my interview process. I can get it on my phone. And that makes the barrier for entry incredibly low. To build out the information, we allow this in the form of like page templates. Page templates are going to be ways that you can, again, build out content and then have that content gated behind certain stages. So if you see here, I have a couple about us, offer, recruiter prep, virtual onsite. As you go into these, the way you create these pages based off a couple of these content blocks, very quick and easy. We'll just go over it. Content blocks for custom text. Exactly that, right? It's going to give you an experience where you guys can tailor all of the verbiage there as you see fit. Do different sizing, different images. You can link in certain things. I had one customer who just put in their address because they were doing physical interviews. And so they hyperlinked it. Again, mobile experience. You click on that, and it pulls you right into your Maps location. And it became an incredibly easy experience. We also allow for images. We do support videos for both YouTube, Loom, and Vimeo. We have content cards, which is a really cool experience where you can have kind of that slide scroll information. We've seen folks use this with like their company values, right? We really want to lean into that company culture, who we are as an industry. You can obviously give that information there and kind of control it with the header and the content. Also, if you want to give your candidates line of sight for what they can expect over their interview process, this is another great place. Hey, you're in this step, step 1. After that, step 2. You can kind of give that information so that they know what to expect. Other things we offer is like linked cards, and this is going to be very similar side scroll experience right here, center mass, where you can just give us a URL and then again, provide the information for the candidate that you want. You want to send them to a specific place in your website, you can do so. You want to pull them into an article where it was highlighted a specific thing, whether engineering front, sales front, you can also do that. And again, pull in that information specific for your candidates. Obviously, we do offer a lot of different page variations, and really the only thing stopping here is your creativity for what you guys can come up with. Pulling this into a specific job, this is where we're actually going to get into how you can build this out. Within our platform, right, you can come in, you can obviously edit the display name. So maybe you have multiple job names that have the location. You don't want to show that. You can edit down, just show the specific items you want. You get to choose your branding, and then down below, this is where you'll start to pull in those page templates. And if you notice right here, we're in the visibility, this is where you can also choose to kind of gate that content behind specific stages. So the candidates don't see that until they actually progress towards that stage. Obviously, there's a way to preview it. Just doing a quick preview. You'll see this kind of experience. We have just the About Us, our stage selector at the top right. And as we progress through, now I'm in the on-site and had some content behind that recruiter prep screen, now on-site. And again, it's all being served up at the exact time that you want the candidate to get it so that it's the most relevant information. And they just don't get burned out with information they don't need yet early on in the process. Cool. We will be hosting a more in-depth kind of demo and example of our candidate portal. We'll have some information going out in the follow-ups. So if you want more in-depth, and this is the quick little 5 minutes I took there, sign up for it. Awesome. All righty. I did want to include, and the Roblox team here was nice enough to provide me with some really good stuff that they've already built out. So this is kind of some of their content for their page templates. Shana was incredible here. She's got a nice gift there, which is just kind of showcasing the mobile experience. So again, as you're thinking about how are candidates going to experience this, what are they going to be seeing? And really lean in and make sure you have the full piece all connected for what they would be experiencing. And also, I'm just really a big fan of these page templates. You guys have done incredible work here.
Thanks for the help getting us all set up on it. Yeah. I mean, it looks great. It's got all the right information. And as we kind of talked about, being able to segment it by stage, make sure that the candidates are just, seeing what's relevant to where they're at in the process, but they can also go back and see, oh, there was something shared at the, fit and interest stage or the recruiter screen stage that, oh, I felt like that was really interesting. Let me go see what that's about.
Love it. Love it. All righty. So let's get in right now. I know we got a couple questions here into the chat. So let's take a quick peek here. It does look like there were a couple items specific about how are you guys kind of asking or convincing candidates when it comes time for their feedback to take those surveys?
Yeah, I'm happy to take this one. Actually, this is really relevant because this just came up. As I mentioned, we do both a weekly and a monthly overview of how our candidate experience feedback is looking, and we divide that by group or by organization so people just can see what's most relevant to them. And one of our teams was saying, hey, how can we increase this number? So again, super relevant question. I would say one of the best practices that I would say in increasing engagement is leaning on the people who have the best relationships with your candidate. So for myself as a program manager, somebody who's sitting kind of outside of the day-to-day experience that our candidates are seeing, I really do lean on my talent partners or my recruiters to be the ones to drive that conversation. And in a way that can look is after a candidate's on-site interview or virtual on-site, that's when we send the survey. And so during the walkout or the, closing out process, we use that, first of all, as a plug for the survey. And we give a little bit more context as to why we're looking for this information. We're looking to continuously increase or just improve our experience for our candidates and make sure that we're providing the best possible experience to everyone who goes through our process. Remind them that it is anonymous. We aren't looking at what they specifically are saying or tying anything back to them, but we do want to give as actionable of insights as possible. So it does just give them that cue of when they see the email, it is something that we are looking at and it's important to us, so that they aren't feeling like, oh yeah, nobody's just nobody's going to read these answers. So leaning on the people who sort of drive that relationship with the candidate and know how they communicate, what's most relevant to them, that's something that I would recommend. Also, you can do the same thing with your interviewers. Have them plug, hey, by the way, we're going to be having a survey sent out to you. Would love to hear a little bit more about your experience here and how the interview process has been for you. I would say that is my top tip. But if you have other questions, feel free to put them in the chat.
Cool, stellar. Let's see here. Looking at some questions, it looks like a lot of people are curious about your guys's interviewer accommodation programs. So a little more depth there. What does the accommodation program look like? Does it allow for take-home tests versus live coding assessments? And any other contextual information? It sounds like people are pretty excited about that one.
Yeah, we're really excited about this. This is actually something we just launched this month, so it's still fairly fresh. But we basically, identified a gap in our interviewing process for candidates that might need additional support, whether that is due to, a disability or religious belief, or something else. And so we really owe it to our candidates to proactively ask them if they need that extra support. So something that we've started doing for the entire recruiting team here, anyone that's candidate facing has updated their email signature to just include, a quick tagline at the bottom that says, if you need, an accommodation, please fill out this form. And so essentially we have a group within the RC team of about 4 or 5 people that are specifically handling those requests. So it's very important that we keep it to, a small group because this is very sensitive information. This is definitely something that I was excited to work on because it was a gap that I think we should have, been meeting the needs of, from day one, but I understand that it's also definitely a work in progress. But yeah, I think we're really excited about this. We've partnered with some companies around the Bay that offer sign language interpretation, for example. The take-home testing is very interesting. We definitely need to think through that. Absolutely, I think that is something that we should offer. So thanks for raising that, because that's actually not something that we had identified. So I appreciate that. But yeah, that's kind of how we have launched the program. Like I said, it's very new, but it's a responsibility on us to make sure that our candidates are well prepared. Our plan is also, like I said, we're keeping it to a very small group because this is such sensitive information that we'll be handling. But then what we will do, if and when we do have a candidate that needs an accommodation, depending on what it is, will inform the recruiter and the interviewer. So, if there's going to be an interpreter in the room, we would, prep the interviewers on how to communicate with the candidate. Or if it's something as simple of just like needing extra time for an interview or needing a break or a quiet room between interviews, that might not be something that we share with everyone. So it's also very situational depending on the candidate.
That's awesome. No, and I mean, I think that just really echoes a lot of what we heard, right? Of being cognizant about the candidates coming in, making sure that you guys put their best foot forward, respecting them, not even just as candidates, potential hires, but just people in general, and making sure that they're heard and accommodated with. Thus, interview accommodation program, right? I'm sure they got the name.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Let's see here. It looks like there's just one more question. How are we doing on time, though? I know we got about 45 minutes for this, and I see we're a little over that. I'm gonna call it on the Q&As here, just because I want to be respectful of everyone's time. A couple call outs from the team. First of all, thank you for all the attendees who took time out of your guys' afternoon. Massive thank you to each and every one of you guys on the panel, JP, Gwen, Andrea, Shayna. Really appreciate you guys partnering with us. Always love our conversations, very insightful, taught me a lot about the TA space. Just really appreciate it. For the folks on the call, a couple call outs here. We will be hosting kind of a more formal webinar / demo in depth of the ModernLoop candidate portal. We will follow up with everyone here, not only with just the call recording, but a forum and way that you guys can sign up for that one. Any of the current customers who are on there, if you are currently excited about the candidate portal, reach out to your CSM. We can get you guys connected and get it enabled for you to possibly trial the candidate portal experience that we have to offer. All that said and done, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. We do appreciate all of the time and effort that we've put into this. We love that you guys took time out of your afternoons, and we are just incredibly thankful for all of the partnerships across the board. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you.